My name is Lin Yong. For 40 years, these hands have done only one thing: roast tea. Not the ordinary kind one hastily sips by the roadside, but the white Jade Lotus, the very soul of the Zheng Jia Tea House, a treasure for which people would wait in line for a month just to purchase a single ounce. Today, at the 80th anniversary celebration, Old Master Zheng, the man with whom I had walked through most of my life, decided to award me the Lifetime Contribution Medal. The atmosphere in the Grand Hall of Shanghai's most luxurious five-star hotel was solemn and warm. The light from the crystal chandeliers shone down upon the silver-haired guests, the long-standing partners, and the entire staff of Zheng Jia. I, in a simple indigo linen suit, stood on the stage, accepting a red brocade box from the trembling hands of Old Master Zheng, who was seated in a wheelchair. He was very weak now. Illness had sapped nearly all his strength, but his eyes, as he looked at me, were as bright as the day I, a young man from the countryside, first stepped into Zheng Jia. Master Lin. His voice was hoarse and faint, needing the microphone to be heard. Without you, there is no white Jade Lotus. Without the white Jade Lotus, there is no Zheng Jia today. This medal is not enough. I smiled and bowed my head. For me, his recognition was enough. Thunderous applause erupted. I could see the young tea roasters I had mentored, their eyes welling up with tears. They were my family. Zheng Jia was my home. Just as I was about to step back, a tall figure in a sleek Armani suit strode onto the stage. Zheng Baolong, Old Master Zheng's only son, had returned from his studies in America a few months ago. He exuded a mixed scent of expensive cologne, excessive confidence, and an undisguised impatience. He didn't look at his father, nor at me. He walked straight to the podium and snatched the microphone from the astonished MC. The applause died. A dreadful silence fell over the hall. "Thank you for my father's kind words," Baolong began, his voice loud, sharp, and cold, a stark contrast to the usual warmth of Zheng Jia. "And thank you for the contribution of Mr. Lin here." He glanced at me, a fleeting look as if I were a piece of old furniture. But contributions belong to the past. The future demands change. Zheng Jia needs a new era, an era of speed, scale, and maximum profit. He paused, his eyes sweeping across the room, savoring the absolute attention. A chill ran down my spine. Old Master Zheng looked at his son with utter bewilderment. "To step into that new era," Baolong continued, his voice hardening, "we must eliminate the old, the outdated mindsets that are holding us back. We can't remain a small, artisanal workshop forever." He turned fully towards me, pointing a finger straight at my face. All the stage lights seemed to converge on us, and the change starts here. It starts today. On behalf of the new leadership of the Zheng Jia Tea House, I declare, the employment contract with Mr. Lin Yong is terminated. Your outdated thinking is no longer suitable for Zheng Jia. A deathly silence enveloped the hall. I could hear someone's sharp intake of breath, the clatter of a glass as a server dropped a tray. Old Master Zheng tried to push himself up from his wheelchair, his mouth agape, but no words came out. His face turned pale, his eyes staring at his son in disbelief. I stood there, center stage, under the brilliant lights and the gaze of hundreds of eyes. The pain, the humiliation, the outrage that should have erupted, they didn't. Inside my chest there was only a strange calm. 40 years, a lifetime. To end with such a cold declaration? I looked at Zheng Baolong. In his eyes, I saw no respect, no regret, only the cruel flame of ambition and undisguised contempt. He was destroying not only my career, but his own father's legacy. Slowly, I opened the red brocade box. The gold medal shimmered, exquisitely engraved with the 4 characters for lifetime contribution. How ironic. I picked it up, feeling the weight and the coldness of the medal in my palm. Then, I gently placed it on the podium, right in front of Zheng Baolong. I didn't need this false honor. Next, I turned towards Old Master Zheng. I said nothing. I just bowed, a deep, slow bow. It was my greeting, my farewell, the final respect I paid to the man who had trusted me for so many years. When I looked up, I saw tears rolling down his wrinkled cheeks. Then I turned and walked off the stage. I walked straight, without looking back. I walked through the crowd that parted for me like the sea. I could feel their gazes of pity, of shock, and of fear. But no one said a word. No one dared to stop me. As the heavy wooden doors of the grand hall slammed shut behind me, cutting off all the noise from within, I stood alone in the quiet corridor. I took a deep breath. The air out here felt cleaner. I smiled, a bitter smile. Zheng Baolong, he had fired me. He thought he had won, had removed an obstacle. But he didn't know one thing. A very small detail, yet it was everything. He didn't know that the man he had just fired was not merely a tea master. He was the true owner of the white Jade Lotus. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I walked along the Bund. The skyscrapers of Pudong glittered in the night, proud and cold, just like Zheng Baolong. I found a stone bench and sat down, listening to the sound of the Huangpu River lapping against the shore. The night breeze carried a hint of moisture, soothing the burning heat in my chest. I wasn't angry. I only felt a deep sadness. Sadness for old Master Zheng, who had spent his life building a brand on quality and reputation, only to watch his own son tear it down. Sadness for the young roasters who had placed their faith in me and the future of Zheng Jia. And a little sadness for myself, for having dedicated my youth and passion to a place that ultimately treated me like a discarded antique. My phone vibrated. It was Lawyer Xu, an old friend who had handled all my legal matters for the past 20 years. I answered. Master Lin, I just heard the news. His voice was low and worried. That Baolong kid truly doesn't know his place. Are you all right? I'm fine, old Xu, I replied, my voice calm. Just a bit of a surprise. A surprise? This is a humiliation. He has no right to do that. Your contract. That's precisely why I haven't gone home, I interrupted him. This day has finally come, just sooner than I expected. Do you still have the copy of the agreement? There was a moment of silence on the other end. I could picture Lawyer Xu narrowing his eyes, his sharp legal mind kicking into high gear. Then he chuckled, a low, deep laugh. Master Lin, you truly hide your depths. I've kept it in my safe for over 10 years, thinking it would never be needed. The Heritage Succession Agreement, correct? That's the one, I confirmed. Old Master Zheng was truly a man of foresight. He anticipated this day, anticipated what his precious son might do. I fell silent, remembering that day. 10 years ago, when old Master Zheng first began showing signs of declining health, he called me into his private study. Baolong, still a student in America, had already revealed his pragmatic nature and disdain for traditional craftsmanship. The old master was worried. He feared that one day, the secret of the white Jade Lotus, which was not just a recipe, but an art form involving weather, temperature, humidity, and the feel of one's hands would be brutally commercialized or, worse, lost forever. Young, he had said, gripping my hand, I see you as a brother. Zheng Jia may belong to the Zheng family, but the white Jade Lotuses belongs to you. You are the only one who understands it, the only one who can protect it. I want to entrust it to you. I had refused at the time. I was just an employee. But the old master was insistent. He had Lawyer Xu draft a special agreement, not an employment contract, but a legal document with superior standing, the Heritage Succession Agreement. It clearly stated, I, Lin Yong, was the sole holder of the recipe, the processing techniques, and all intellectual property rights related to the white Jade Lotus trademark. The Zheng Jia Tea House was granted exclusive distribution rights, and in return, they had to guarantee my working conditions and provide a commensurate salary. The agreement would only terminate if I voluntarily transferred it to a worthy successor of my choosing, or upon my death without an heir. Any unilateral termination of the agreement by Zheng Jia without my consent would be considered a breach, and the exclusive distribution rights would be immediately revoked. Simply put, old Master Zheng still owned the body of Zheng Jia, but its soul, the white Jade Lotus, was mine. Baolong definitely doesn't know about it, Lawyer Xu said. He probably only glanced at the standard labor contract from HR. He thinks firing you is all it takes. He's too arrogant to check the details, I said. He only sees me as an old tea maker, nothing more. So, what is your plan? I looked out at the glittering river. A yacht sailed by, carrying with it music and loud laughter. Shanghai at night never slept, a world of glamour, opportunities, and pitfalls. Now is not the time, I said slowly. Let him do what he wants. Let him think he has won. For a tree to die, it must first rot from within. I will give him the time to destroy everything with his own hands. A grand game of chess, Lawyer Xu mused. What do you need from me? Have everything ready. Keep that agreement safe. I'll call you when the time is right. Oh, one more thing. Help me register a name. What name? I smiled, the first genuine smile of the evening. The Lotus Heart Tea House. The heart of the lotus. The heart of the white Jade Lotus. Hanging up, I stood, dusted off my pants, and walked towards the subway station. The night was still long, but in my heart, the dawn was already breaking. This game of chess, I would not lose. Because I wasn't fighting for money or fame. I was fighting to protect a legacy. 2 weeks after being cast out of Zheng Jia, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end was young and somewhat timid. "Excuse me, is this Master Lin? My name is Anqi. I am the granddaughter of old Mr. Wang, your longtime tea-drinking friend of old Master Zheng." I remembered her. A young woman with bright eyes and a warm smile, who occasionally followed her grandfather to Zheng Jia to learn about the art of tea. Her grandfather was a renowned calligrapher, one of the most loyal and knowledgeable customers of the white Jade Lotus. "Hello, Anqi. I remember you. Is there something I can help you with?" I heard what happened at Zheng Jia," she stammered slightly. "I am so sorry. My grandfather and I are both very upset." "It's in the past. Nothing to be sorry about," I replied gently. "No," and she suddenly became more assertive. "It's not just a personal matter. It's an insult to an entire culture, an art form. I have a proposal, though I don't know if it's too bold. May I meet with you for a moment, Master?" My curiosity was piqued. I arranged to meet her at a small tea shop tucked away in an old alley of the old city, and she arrived on time, wearing a simple but elegant pale green dress. She was not alone. Accompanying her was a young man in a suit who looked like a businessman. After the greetings, Anqi introduced him. "Master Lin, this is my cousin Li Wei. He works in venture capital." Li Wei shook my hand with a humble demeanor. "Master, I've heard so much about you. Anqi has told me about her idea." Anqi took a slim folder from her bag and pushed it towards me. "Master, I know you are a true artist, unconcerned with fame or fortune, but I also know that art needs a space to exist and flourish. I want to invest in you." I was surprised. "Invest?" "Yes," she nodded, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Not for a massive business. I want to open a tea house. A very small, very quiet place. A place where you can continue your work without being disturbed. A place where true tea lovers can come to enjoy a genuine cup of white Jade Lotus. I will cover all the costs for the space, design, and operation. You only need to do one thing: make tea," Li Wei added. "From a business perspective, this may not be a fast-returning investment. But from the perspective of brand value and heritage preservation, this is an invaluable opportunity. We believe that true value will speak for itself." I looked at the two young people before me. Anqi, with her pure passion for tea culture. Li Wei, with the sharp vision of a new generation investor who understood that core values were more important than short-term profits. They were a perfect combination. They were the future I was looking for. "Why me?" I asked. "You could find other tea masters." Anqi shook her head. "No one can replace you, Master. White Jade Lotus is not just tea. It's the culmination of your 40 years of dedication. We are not investing in a product. We are investing in a person, in a legend." Her words touched the deepest part of my heart. For the first time since that night, I felt a spreading warmth. I was not alone. There were still young people who understood the value of dedication and commitment. I looked through the plan Anqi had prepared. Everything was detailed and thoughtful. The tea house would be located in a restored old house in the former French concession, renovated in a minimalist, refined style. There would be no large sign, no advertising. Guests would come by word of mouth. No tea would be sold to take away. Each session would only host a limited number of guests. Everything was focused on the experience. The name of the tea house, as I had registered, was the Lotus Heart Tea House. "I have one condition," I said after a moment of silence. "Please, tell us," Anqi and Li Wei said in unison, their expressions slightly tense. "I will not take a salary. I will be a partner. I will contribute the only capital I have." I looked them straight in the eye. The legal copyright to the white Jade Lotuses. Anqi and Li Wei looked at each other, astonished. I could see the intelligence flash in Li Wei's eyes as he quickly grasped the implication of my words. "Master," Li Wei stammered. "Are you saying Zheng Jia has no right to use that name?" "They had the right to distribute, but they relinquished that right themselves," I said calmly, then told them about the heritage succession agreement. Anqi's jaw dropped in amazement, then her face lit up with joy. Li Wei, on the other hand, laughed out loud. "Brilliant. This isn't just a defensive move, it's a strategic counterattack. Master, you hold the ultimate weapon." "The ultimate weapon is not a piece of paper," I shook my head. "It is the inimitable quality of the tea itself. The Lotus Heart Tea House will not confront Zheng Jia directly. We will be an undercurrent, a whisper among connoisseurs. We will let the tea lovers themselves be the judge." Li Wei nodded vigorously, his face full of admiration. "I understand. This is a strategy of the highest order. To win without fighting. Master, we fully agree to your condition. "Welcome, partner Lin Yong." He extended his hand. I took it. This handshake was not just the beginning of a tea house. It was the beginning of a journey to reclaim what was lost, to prove that true value would never be buried by glamour and greed. The Lotus Heart Tea House was born, not from the ashes of the past, but from the seeds of a sustainable future. While the Lotus Heart Tea House was quietly taking shape in a small alley, the Zheng Jia Tea House was undergoing an unprecedented and tumultuous reform. Zheng Baolong, with absolute power in his hands, acted like a hurricane. He fired nearly half of the skilled tea roasters, men who had followed me for decades, on the grounds that they were slow and couldn't keep up with the new process. In their place, he hired a team of young, low-wage workers who were only required to follow a set of instructions. The artisanal roasting workshop, where the heart of Zheng Jia once beat, was dismantled. In its place stood a modern production line of imported German machinery, soulless, gleaming stainless steel. Baolong proudly called it production process optimization. He even changed the source of the raw materials. Instead of the hand-picked buds from ancient tea trees high in the mountains that I had personally selected, he signed a contract with a large industrial tea plantation where tea was mass-grown and machine-harvested. And thus, White Jade Lotus 2.0 was born. The packaging was redesigned, flashy and eye-catching with sleek English text. The price was reduced by 30% to reach a wider market. A massive social media marketing campaign was launched, featuring celebrities holding the tea box with artificial smiles. Baolong confidently declared at a press conference that he had democratized an aristocratic tea, bringing it to the masses. But he had forgotten a fundamental truth. People sought the White Jade Lotus not for its packaging or price. They sought it for its flavor, for the essence of heaven, earth, and human hands. The first batch of White Jade Lotus 2.0 hit the market. Initially, sales soared due to curiosity and the massive advertising campaign. But then, the complaints began to surface first as whispers, then spreading like wildfire. I didn't need to eavesdrop. The information came to me. Ah Ming, one of the young roasters who had been fired and was now helping me at the Lotus Heart, recounted the stories with a sad face. "Master, they've been getting angry calls from everywhere." Old Mr. Wang, the chairman of the Vantone Real Estate Group, a loyal customer for 30 years, called young Master Baolong directly. He said the tea he was selling was an insult, a fraud. It had no soul. Ah Ming was right. Tea, like a person, must have a soul. The real White Jade Lotus had 3 layers of flavor. The first infusion was as pure as morning dew, the second as mellow as wild honey, and the final infusion left a lingering aftertaste of pristine white magnolia. It was a symphony of flavors. And White Jade Lotus 2.0? I bought a box to see for myself. The tea had only a bitter, astringent taste, and a shallow, industrial aroma. It was a single, jarring note. On tea connoisseur forums, a thread titled "The Fall of a Legend" attracted thousands of comments. People shared their disappointment and anger. They felt betrayed. I've been drinking Zheng Jia's tea since I was a child. What they're selling now is no different from cheap tea bags. Without Master Lin, Zheng Jia is just an empty shell. They've sold their soul to the devil of marketing. Baolong initially ignored these criticisms, dismissing them as the reactions of a small group of conservatives. He ordered the marketing department to delete negative comments and hire people to write fake positive reviews. But he couldn't silence the world. Sales began to drop sharply after the initial boom. High-end distributors started returning stock. Large corporate gift orders were canceled. I sat in the tranquil space of the nearly completed Lotus Heart Tea House, holding a warm cup of tea. I felt no joy in his failure. I only felt regret. Regret for an 80-year-old brand being destroyed by an arrogant and ignorant fool. One afternoon, Ah Ming rushed in, his face pale. "Master, something big has happened. Sister Lan, the chief accountant at Zheng Jia, just called me. She's been let go too," she said. "Young Master Baolong is planning to sell a portion of the company's shares to a foreign investment fund. They want to turn Zheng Jia into a chain of modern bubble tea shops." I set my cup down. The small clink echoed in the silence. So this was his final plan. He didn't just want to change the product. He wanted to completely erase Zheng Jia's identity, to turn a renowned tea house into a fast drink shop for the youth. If old Master Zheng knew about this, he would never be able to rest in peace. "He's gutting the company," I murmured. He was converting intangible assets, a legacy built over decades, into cash as quickly as possible, before the ship Zheng Jia completely sank. I looked out the window. A yellow sycamore leaf detached from its branch, twirled a few times, and gently landed on the ground. Autumn had arrived. It was time for the rotten to fall, to make way for new life. "Ah Ming," I called. Tell lawyer Su to send a letter. A gentle reminder to the Zheng Jia Tea House about the unauthorized use of the white Jade Lotus's trademark. Just a warning, the game had only just begun. The Lotus Heart Tea House opened without any fanfare. There were no banners, no congratulatory flower arrangements, not a single post on social media. The old, heavy rosewood door was simply opened one early autumn morning. Inside, the space was minimalist yet exquisitely refined. Just a few ebony tables and chairs, a small koi pond, and the faint scent of sandalwood incense. It didn't feel like a shop, but a sanctuary. Our first guests were old Mr. Wang and his granddaughter, An Qi. I personally brewed them a pot of white Jade Lotus from the last batch I had roasted at Zheng Jia. When Mr. Wang took his first sip, he closed his eyes. After a long moment, he opened them, and I saw a single tear roll down his aged cheek. "This is it," he said, his voice trembling. "The taste I thought I would never experience again. Master Lin, you've brought it back." From that day on, word of the Lotus Heart Tea House began to spread. Not through advertisements, but through whispers. Old Mr. Wang told his elderly friends at his Go Club. A famous food critic, after being recommended by a friend, sought us out. He didn't write a formal review, just posted a short, cryptic message on his personal blog. Today, I rediscovered the soul of Shanghai tea in an unnamed place. That post, though it named no names, was enough to create a small earthquake in the world of tea connoisseurs. People began to search, asking one another about this unnamed place. The Lotus Heart had a strict rule set by An Qi. Guests were accepted by appointment only, and only those referred by a previous guest could book. This created a sense of exclusivity and mystery, which only fueled people's curiosity. An Qi's phone began to ring incessantly. She had to create a waiting list that sometimes stretched for months. The people who came here were not ordinary customers. They were artists, scholars, and successful entrepreneurs weary of the hustle and bustle of life. They came not just to drink tea. They came to find a moment of peace, to savor an art form that was slowly disappearing. I maintained my old habits. Each day, I roasted only a small amount of tea, just enough for the day's use. I was never in a hurry. Every step, from selecting the buds, withering, rolling, to controlling the heat of the cast iron wok, was done with my entire soul. Ah Ming and a few other former Zheng Jia roasters were now working with me. We weren't boss and employees. We were fellow artisans, tending a sacred flame together. One afternoon, an unexpected guest appeared. It was Mr. Liu, the purchasing director for the Imperial International Hotel chain, one of Zheng Jia's oldest and largest clients. He came alone, unannounced. "Master Lin, my apologies for the intrusion," he said after I served him a cup of tea. "I am here in a personal capacity, not on business." I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "Mr. Liu Sahil, we are about to terminate our contract with Zheng Jia. The tea they are supplying now, we cannot serve it to our VIP guests. They complain a lot. Our reputation is being affected." He took a sip of tea, his expression thoughtful. "This taste. This is it. Master, I have a proposal. The Imperial wants to sign an exclusive contract with you, at any price." It was an incredibly tempting offer. Accepting it would give the Lotus Heart a stable and massive income, a meteoric rise. But I shook my head. "Thank you for your kind offer, Mr. Liu. But the Lotus Heart does not sell tea. We only share an experience." Mr. Liu was stunned. "But why? You could easily defeat Zheng Jia. You could build an even bigger empire." "I was in an empire for 40 years. I smiled. "Now, I just want to tend a small garden. An empire built on money will collapse because of money. A garden nurtured with heart will remain evergreen." "Mr." Liu looked at me for a long time, the astonishment on his face gradually turning into deep respect. "I understand. Master, you are a true artist. I haven't met someone like you in a very long time." When he left, he didn't mention the contract again. But I knew my refusal would have a greater impact than any contract. News that the Imperial had rejected White Jade Lotus 2.0 and that its CEO had personally visited the Lotus Heart only to be turned down would soon spread. It would affirm one thing: the value of the true White Jade Lotus could not be measured in money. Meanwhile, the warning letter from lawyer Shu had reached Zheng Baolong. Ah Ming told me he flew into a rage in his office, smashing his computer monitor. He couldn't believe an old country bumpkin like me would dare to challenge him. He thought it was just a cheap bluff. In an internal meeting, he reportedly slammed the table and declared, "What can an over-the-hill old man with a roadside stall do? Let him sue. We'll see if the court sides with an 80-year-old legend or a nobody. We will crush him." He didn't understand. I didn't need to crush him. He was crushing himself. Every cup of tea I brewed at the Lotus Heart was a small drop of water, but hundreds, thousands of those drops were forming a current, silently eroding the rotten foundation of the empire he was trying to build on sand. And the day of its collapse was not far off. The storm arrived sooner than I had anticipated. One late autumn afternoon, as I was teaching Ah Ming how to feel the moisture of the tea leaves with the back of his hand, the door of the Lotus Heart Tea House was violently thrown open. Zheng Baolong stood there, panting, his face flushed with anger. Behind him were two men in black suits, likely his lawyer and assistant. Chi, who was attending to a guest at a nearby table, quickly stood up. "Mr. Zheng, excuse me. We require appointments here." "Get out of my way," Baolong roared, shoving her aside. He marched straight to my tea roasting table, his eyes bloodshot. "Old man, you put on a good show, opening this hovel to steal my customers, to counterfeit my product. You think I don't know?" I remained calm, continuing my work, gently turning the withering tea buds on the bamboo tray. I signaled for Ah Ming and the others to step back, not to interfere. "There are no products for sale here, young Master Zheng," I said in a level voice without looking up. "Only tea to share with friends." "Friends?" He sneered, a distorted smile on his face. "You lure away all my biggest clients, ruin Zheng Jia's reputation, and you call that friends, mister?" "Lou from the Imperial Hotel officially canceled our contract this morning. He said he found a better supplier. It was you, wasn't it?" "I refused Mr. Lou's offer," I replied. "He canceled his contract with you because of your product's quality, not because of me." "Insolence!" Baolong slammed his hand on the table, making the teacups rattle. "Don't think I don't know what you're doing behind my back. You are illegally producing white jade lotuses. I came here today to give you one last warning. Shut down this place immediately and hand over the complete recipe to Zheng Jia. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court." Chi's guest, a respectable university professor, stood up looking indignant. "Young man, this is a place for appreciating tea, not a marketplace. You have no right to come in here and behave like a thug." Baolong glared at him. "Who are you to lecture me? Do you believe I can have you fired?" Sensing the escalating tension, I stood up and dusted off my hands. I looked directly into Baolong's eyes. "You are right, we should see each other in court." My response seemed to stun him for a moment. Perhaps he thought I would be scared, that I would beg. "Oh? Old man, you think you have a chance of winning?" He smirked. "Zheng Jia has a team of top lawyers. What do you have? A rundown tea shop and a few outdated old friends?" "I have the truth," I said simply. "The truth?" He burst out laughing, a contemptuous sound. "In this world, the truth belongs to the powerful, to the wealthy. Let me tell you the truth. The truth is, you are finished. The truth is, the white jade lotus is the property of Zheng Jia. And the truth is, I will sue you until you have to sell your house to pay the legal fees." The lawyer accompanying him cleared his throat and placed a folder on the table. "Master Lin, this is an official warning letter. My client, Mr. Zheng Baolong, demands that you cease all activities infringing upon the white jade lotus's trademark within 48 hours. If not, we will proceed with necessary legal action." I took the letter, didn't bother to read it, just flipped through it and placed it back on the table. "Please see yourselves out. We have work to do here." My composure seemed to enrage Baolong even further. He looked around, his gaze landing on the ceramic jars containing the finished tea I had just roasted that morning. A mad idea flashed in his mind. "Infringing, is it?" he muttered, then suddenly grabbed one of the tea jars, raising it high. "Let me help you cease this infringement." "Don't!" Chi and Ah Ming screamed, but it was too late. He hurled the jar onto the stone floor. The sound of shattering ceramic was deafening. The exquisite tea leaves, the fruit of a full day's hard labor, scattered everywhere. It wasn't just tea. It was sweat, it was passion, it was art. The room fell silent. The old professor trembled with anger, and Chi's eyes were red. Ah Ming clenched his fists. If I hadn't signaled him to stop, he would have charged at Baolong. I looked down at the ruined tea on the floor. This time I could no longer maintain my calm. A cold fury rose within me. He had gone too far. He hadn't just insulted me. He had trampled on a legacy. I looked up, meeting his eyes. My voice was not loud, but it was cold enough to make him shiver. "You have just made the biggest mistake of your life, Zheng Baolong." He seemed slightly shaken by my gaze, but tried to act tough. "Is that so? I'm waiting to see what you can do to me." "You will see," I said. "You will pay for every single tea leaf you just wasted. Now, get out of here, before I lose my composure." "Baolong, perhaps feeling he had achieved his goal, snorted coldly and turned to leave. 48 hours, old man. Remember that. As their figures disappeared behind the door, Enchi rushed to my side. Master, are you all right? What are we going to do now? I bent down and picked up a few of the crushed tea leaves. I didn't answer her right away. I turned to Li Wei, who had arrived shortly after hearing the news and had witnessed the entire event from the back of the room. Li Wei, did you record that entire conversation? Li Wei held up his phone and smiled. Every single word, master, including the threats and the destruction of property. I nodded. Good. Call Lawyer Shu. Tell him there's no need to send any more letters. I paused, taking a deep breath. File the lawsuit. We will be the ones to sue. The charges: defamation, slander, destruction of property, and a dispute over intellectual property rights. It was time for the wounded tiger to show its fangs. Our decision to file a lawsuit came as a shock to Zheng Baolong. He had assumed he was in control, that I was just a weak old man who could only defend passively. He never expected the prey to attack first. Lawyer Shu's office was on the 30th floor of a modern office building, overlooking the entire city. The elegant space was lined with towering bookshelves filled with thick legal volumes. We myself, Anqi, Li Wei, and Lawyer Shu were seated around a large conference table. They've received our lawsuit, Lawyer Shu began, adjusting his glasses. Their first reaction was ridicule. Their lawyer called me, saying this was a baseless and absurd case. They believe we have no evidence to prove your ownership of the white Jade Lotus's trademark. Li Wei crossed his arms and smirked. They're in for a rude awakening. Precisely, Lawyer Shu nodded. And they've made a serious tactical error. Instead of staying quiet and preparing for court, Zheng Baolong took to the media. He gave an interview to a major business newspaper, accusing a disgruntled former employee of trying to extort the company by creating a counterfeit product and spreading malicious rumors. And Qi was indignant. How can they twist the truth so blatantly? That's how people like him operate, I said calmly. He thinks public opinion will always side with a large corporation, a long-established brand. He's trying to paint a narrative where he is the victim. But that action itself is proof of defamation, Lawyer Shu smiled. We've already added that article to our lawsuit. The more he talks, the more mistakes he makes. Li Wei's recording of the incident at the tea house is also irrefutable evidence of his thuggish behavior. He turned a page in the file. However, the crux of this case isn't about defamation or destruction of property. Those are just supporting attacks. The heart of this battle lies here. He placed a copy of the Heritage Succession Agreement in the middle of the table. Every character was carefully handwritten on aged rice paper, bearing the bright red seals and signatures of Old Master Zheng and myself. This is our trump card, Lawyer Shu said, his voice firm. This agreement is legally notarized. It holds the highest legal authority. It proves that Master Lin is not just the creator of White Jade Lotuses, he is its legal owner. Zheng Jia only had distribution rights they forfeited when they unilaterally fired him. Do they know of its existence? Li Wei asked. Certainly not, Lawyer Shu shook his head. If they knew, Baolong wouldn't have acted so foolishly. They will walk into that courtroom with blind confidence, believing that White Jade Lotuses inherently belongs to Zheng Jia. We will not reveal the existence of this agreement until the very last moment. Let them present all their arguments. We will deliver the decisive blow when they least expect it. And Qi looked worried. But is there any risk? What if they find some way to invalidate it? Impossible, Lawyer Shu stated firmly. I've checked thoroughly. Old Master Zheng's signature is authentic. There were witnesses, a notary public. Unless they can prove he was mentally incompetent when he signed it, which is impossible as he was perfectly healthy 10 years ago. Legally, we have a 100% chance of winning. I listened in silence. I knew little about the law, but I trusted Lawyer Shu, and I believed in justice. However, my goal was not just to win the case. Old Zhu, I spoke up, I want you to do one more thing. Request the court to summon Old Master Zheng as a witness. Everyone was surprised. Lawyer Shu frowned. Master Lin, his health is very fragile. Appearing in court could be a great burden. Furthermore, he might have to face a difficult choice, protect his legacy or protect his only son. I know, I replied, but he needs to be there. He needs to witness everything with his own eyes. This is not a fight between me and Baolong. This is a fight for his own legacy. He is the only one who can bring a complete end to this matter. I don't want Baolong to be punished by the law and then harbor resentment. I want him to be utterly convinced, to realize his mistake from the very father he has always disdained. Li Wei nodded in admiration. Master, you truly think 10 steps ahead. This isn't just about winning a battle, but winning the war and preserving peace afterward. Lawyer Shu considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well, I will submit the request. Whether he can appear in court or not, the fact that we requested his testimony will put immense psychological pressure on Baolong. The meeting concluded. As we stepped out of the building, the bright afternoon sun shone down on the city. Everything seemed to be ready. The tea was roasted with the right fire. The water was boiled. The pot and cups were warmed. All that was left was to wait for the day of the feast, the day the truth would be revealed in the light of justice. I knew the upcoming trial would be intense, but my heart was unusually calm, because I knew I was doing the right thing. The courtroom of the Shanghai People's Court was solemn and somewhat chilling. Dark wood-paneled walls, long, silent benches. Zheng Baolong sat on the opposing side, his expression confident, almost arrogant. He wore an expensive suit, flanked by a team of professional-looking lawyers. He glanced at me with a look of utter contempt. The trial began. Zheng Jia's lawyer presented first. He spoke eloquently, citing the company's 80-year history, emphasizing that white Jade Lotus was an inseparable, intangible asset of the Zheng Jia brand. He accused me, a discharged and disgruntled former employee, of being ungrateful, of stealing trade secrets, and of deliberately creating a competing product for personal revenge. They presented evidence of Zheng Jia's declining revenue since the Lotus Heart Tea House appeared, trying to paint a picture where I was the cause of all their problems. Baolong occasionally nodded, looking pleased with himself. When it was our turn, Lawyer Shu did not rush to rebut. He calmly presented the evidence of Baolong's defamation in the press, the audio recording of his threatening behavior, and the security footage of him smashing the tea jar at the Lotus Heart. The confident look on Baolong's face began to falter slightly. Your Honor, Lawyer Shu said, the plaintiff has spoken at length about history and legacy. We completely agree. A legacy is something to be cherished. But the most important question today is, to whom does the white Jade Lotus's legacy truly belong? Baolong's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection. This question is absurd. The white Jade Lotus's obviously belongs to Zheng Jia. The judge banged his gavel. Objection overruled. Defense counsel, please continue. Lawyer Shu smiled. Thank you, Your Honor. To answer this question, I would like to present one final piece of evidence. Evidence that will clarify everything. He signaled to the clerk. A wooden box was brought forward. Lawyer Shu carefully opened it and took out a document, yellowed with age. Your Honor, this is the original Heritage Succession Agreement, signed on the 15th of August, 10 years ago, between Mr. Zheng Wangquan, the founder of the Zheng Jia Tea House, and my client, Mr. Lin Yong. As the words of the agreement were projected onto the large screen in the courtroom, an absolute silence fell. I could hear the sharp intake of breath from the attendees. As the court can see, Lawyer Shu's voice rang out clearly. Article 1, Clause 1 of the agreement states, Party A, Mr. Lin Yong, is recognized as the sole owner of the complete recipe, processing techniques, and all related intellectual property rights to the white Jade Lotus's trademark. Article 2 stipulates, Party B, Zheng Jia Tea House, is granted exclusive distribution rights and is responsible for protecting and maintaining this heritage. And most importantly, Article 4. This agreement can only be terminated with the consent of Party A. Any unilateral termination of employment with Party A by Party B will result in the immediate revocation of the exclusive distribution rights. I looked over at Zheng Baolong. The color had completely drained from his face, his confidence shattered like the tea jar he had thrown. He stared at the screen, then turned to his lawyer, stammering, What? What is this? Why have I never seen it? His lead lawyer was just as pale. He couldn't answer. He had built his entire case on a false foundation. Your Honor, Lawyer Shu concluded, my client has not infringed on any copyright. On the contrary, it is the Zheng Jia Tea House, under the management of Mr. Zheng Baolong, that has been illegally using the white Jade Lotus's trademark since the day they unlawfully fired its legal owner. They have not only deceived customers with a substandard product, they are also in breach of a legally binding agreement of the highest order. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge had to bang his gavel repeatedly to restore order. At that moment, the rear door of the courtroom opened. Old Master Zheng, in a wheelchair, was pushed in by a nurse. He looked much thinner and weaker, but his eyes burned with a fierce determination. I would like to say a few words, he said, his voice frail but clear. The judge, after a moment's hesitation, agreed. The nurse pushed his wheelchair to the witness stand. He looked at his stunned son, then turned to me, his eyes filled with a complex mixture of emotions. "Your Honor," he began, "that agreement is real. I signed it myself. I did it to protect my life's work, to protect the white Jade Lotuses from short-sighted ambitions. Master Lin is not just an employee. He is the keeper of Zheng Jia's soul." He turned to Baolong, his voice trembling with emotion and disappointment. "Baolong, what have you done? You have turned our family's legacy into a joke, trampled upon my life's work and the efforts of those loyal to us. You cast out the one person you should have respected the most." "Father, I didn't know." Baolong stammered, all his bravado gone. "You didn't know? Or you didn't care to know?" Old Master Zheng sighed, a weary, heartbreaking sound. "You only saw the money, not the value behind it." Then, he turned back to the judge. "I, as the largest shareholder and founder, hereby declare, the Zheng Jia Tea House admits to all wrongdoings. We withdraw our lawsuit and accept any and all claims for compensation from Mr. Lin Yong. And," he took a deep breath, "I request the court to issue a ruling prohibiting us from using the name White Jade Lotuses until we receive permission again from its legal owner, Mr. Lin Yong." It was the final blow, delivered not by me but by his own father. Baolong slumped in his chair, his head in his hands. The empire he tried to build had crumbled in a matter of minutes. The trial ended with our absolute victory. As I walked out of the courthouse, camera flashes went off incessantly. But I paid them no mind. I just looked up at the sky. The Shanghai sky was unusually clear and blue that day. Justice, sometimes delayed, eventually arrives. A week after the trial, the Shanghai business world was in an uproar. The stock of Zheng Jia Tea House, already in decline, now plummeted. Investors fled. The newspapers were filled with analyses of the fall of a brand due to greed and arrogance. Zheng Baolong completely disappeared from public view. It was said he had locked himself in his villa, refusing to see anyone. Meanwhile, the Lotus Heart Tea House became a pilgrimage site for tea lovers. The waiting list now extended to 3 months. We received countless offers for partnerships and franchises, but Enqi and Li Wei, true to our original philosophy, refused them all. We remained a small, quiet, and pure garden. One evening, as I was preparing to close the tea house, an ambulance screeched to a halt outside. I had a bad feeling. A nurse got out and hurried inside. "Master Lin, it's old Master Zheng. He wants to see you. His condition is not good," the doctor said. "There might not be much time left. He keeps repeating your name." My heart tightened. Whatever had happened, old Master Zheng was still the friend, the elder brother I respected. Without hesitation, I got into the vehicle. The hospital was quiet and smelled strongly of disinfectant. Old Master Zheng lay on the bed, surrounded by beeping monitors. He was emaciated, his breathing shallow. Zheng Baolong sat slumped by the bed, looking haggard and as if he had aged a decade. Seeing me, he stood up and bowed his head, unable to look me in the eye. "Master Lin, thank you for coming," he whispered. Old Master Zheng opened his eyes. They were cloudy, but a faint light flickered in them when he saw me. He gestured for the nurse and his son to leave. The room was now empty, save for the two of us. "Yong," he rasped, trying to reach out with a bony hand. I quickly took it. It was cold as ice. "I'm sorry. On behalf of my foolish son. I'm sorry." "Old Master, don't say that." My voice was choked. "It's over." "It's not over." He shook his head, his breathing becoming more difficult. I'm about to leave. But I can't close my eyes. Zheng Jia. My life's work. It's about to turn to dust." Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I know I have no right to ask. But I'm begging you, Yong. Save it. Don't let it die." I was silent. Save Zheng Jia, the place that had humiliated me, that had thrown me out. Baolong. "He was wrong," he continued, as if reading my thoughts. "He has paid the price. I've stripped him of all his executive powers. All my shares. I will leave them to him. On one condition." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "He must hand over all decision-making authority to you. You will be the one to steer the ship of Zheng Jia." I was stunned. "Old Master, only you can do it," he interrupted. "You have the skill, the integrity, and most importantly, the respect of everyone. Go back, not as an employee, but as its master. Merge the Lotus Heart into it. Make Zheng Jia what it was always meant to be." This was an offer I had never imagined. To be the head of Zheng Jia? To run an entire corporation? That wasn't who I was. I was just a tea master. Please, Yang, his voice was almost a whimper. Consider it the last request of an old friend. Don't let our legacy disappear. Do it for the workers, for the families who depend on it. Do it for the name Zheng Jia, for me. I looked into his eyes, which were slowly losing their light. I saw in them not the calculation of a businessman, but the pain of a father, a founder watching helplessly as his creation lay dying. I remembered the early, difficult days when he and I stayed up all night testing new batches of tea. I remembered how he had helped me arrange my mother's funeral back in my hometown. For all those years, he was not just a boss. He was a benefactor, an elder brother. The anger, the resentment within me seemed to dissolve. All that remained was a sense of duty and affection. I squeezed his cold hand. "Rest now, old master," I said, my voice hoarse. "I promise you, Zheng Jia will not die. The white jade lotuses will live forever." A contented smile appeared on his pale face. He closed his eyes, one last tear rolling down. The heart monitor beside the bed emitted a long, flat tone. I stood there, still holding his hand, for a long time. The door opened. Zheng Baolong entered. He saw the scene, fell to his knees, and began to sob like a child. I gently placed Old Master Zheng's cold hand down and turned to Baolong. He looked up at me, his eyes swollen, filled with guilt and despair. Master Lin, Get up," I said. "Your father has left a heavy burden. Crying won't solve anything. Starting tomorrow, we have a lot of work to do." He looked at me, bewildered. "Your father wanted me to return," I continued. "And I have agreed. Not to work for you, but to work with you. You are still a Zheng. You will have to learn again from the beginning. From how to choose tea, how to start the fire, how to feel the heat. You will have to use your own two hands to find what you have lost. Can you do it?" Zheng Baolong looked at me, a mixture of astonishment, shame, and a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. He said nothing, just nodded vigorously, tears streaming down his face again. This time, they were not tears of despair, but of redemption. That night, a legend of Shanghai's tea industry passed away. But I knew, another legend was preparing to be reborn from the ashes. 1 year later, the Zheng Jia Tea House was no longer a name associated with scandal and collapse. It had been reborn, stronger and more authentic than ever. The headquarters building was no longer a series of cold, glass-walled offices. We had renovated it, turning the ground floor into a vast tea appreciation space, combining the antique charm of the Lotus Heart with the inherent elegance of Zheng Jia. I did not take the title of chairman or CEO. My title was simple: head tea master. I was responsible for the quality of our core product, the white Jade Lotus, which had now returned to its peak flavor. We did not mass produce. The annual output was limited, and every box sold bore my signature and a unique serial number. It once again became a sought-after treasure. Li Wei, with his strategic vision, became the CEO, helping the company manage its business operations professionally, and Qi was in charge of culture and customer experience, organizing tea ceremonies and classes on tea art. She infused a youthful and refined spirit into the old brand. And Zheng Baolong? He had changed. The death of his father and the collapse of the empire he had caused was a tremendous shock, but it was also a priceless lesson. He had shaved his slick hair, put away his expensive suits, and now wore the same coarse linen clothes as the other workers. Every day, he was the first to arrive at the tea workshop, and the last to leave. He started with sweeping, lighting the fires, and then the simplest tasks. The hands that were once only familiar with signing checks and using a smartphone were now calloused and stained with tea. At first, the old workers looked at him with suspicion, but his silence, perseverance, and genuinely humble attitude gradually won them over. I did not treat him specially. I was stricter with him than with anyone else. I made him re-roast a batch of tea dozens of times until it met the standard. Once, he broke down in tears of frustration, but then wiped them away and continued. He was using hard labor to atone for his mistakes. One afternoon, I was in Old Master Zheng's study, which had now become my office, reviewing the ledgers. The door opened, and Baolong entered, carrying a tea tray. "Master, I've just finished roasting the new spring batch. I brewed a pot. I'd like you to try it." His voice was low and humble. He had been calling me master for the past 6 months. I nodded. He performed the tea brewing ceremony with skill and reverence. The hot water poured into the cup, releasing a familiar, pure aroma. He offered the cup to me with both hands. I took a sip. The pure fragrance of morning dew, the mellow sweetness of honey, and the lingering aftertaste of magnolia. It wasn't as perfect as the tea I made, still a bit raw, but most importantly, it had a soul. The soul of dedication, of repentance, of a new beginning. I set the cup down and looked at him. Much better than last time. But the fire temperature was a bit too high at the end. Did you notice? His eyes lit up. Yes, I felt it. The leaves were a little drier than the standard. I will pay more attention next time. I smiled. He was beginning to learn how to feel the tea, not just follow a formula. Master, he hesitated. May I ask you something? Go ahead. Why? Why did you give me a chance, after everything I did to you, to Zheng Jia? I looked out the window at the magnolia tree that old Master Zheng had planted when he first established the tea house. Because of your father, I said, and also because of you. A person, like a tea leaf, can make mistakes, can be bruised, but if placed in the right fire, with the right water, it can still release its most precious fragrance. Your father believed you could do it, and I wanted to believe it too. Zheng Baolong bowed his head in silence. I knew he truly understood. We sat in silence, enjoying the pot of tea together. Outside, life went on. The Zheng Jia Tea House was now more than just a tea company. It had become a symbol of rebirth, of the harmony between tradition and modernity, and of a timeless truth. True value lies not in profit or scale, but in the heart of its creator. Old Master Zheng's legacy was not dead. It had simply endured a harsh winter, only to be reborn, more vibrant and stronger, in the spring sunshine. And I, an old tea master, felt a deep satisfaction, knowing I had kept my promise, had protected the soul of the white Jade Lotus for generations to come. A year and a half after Old Master Zheng's passing, the Zheng Jia Tea House had settled into a stable and solid rhythm. We no longer chased soulless revenue figures. Instead, we focused on creating sustainable value. Every quarter, Anqi organized heritage tea gatherings, events that were not just for product showcases but also opportunities for artists, scholars, and culture lovers to meet and share. These events helped solidify Zheng Jia's position not just as a tea brand, but as a cultural hub. Li Wei, with his keen business acumen, had helped the company build a strong financial foundation without sacrificing quality. He successfully negotiated contracts to supply our tea to Asia's most luxurious resorts, places where clients demanded absolute subtlety and exclusivity. Zheng Baolong had become my most capable right-hand man in the workshop. The impulsive air of his past was gone, replaced by the calm and patience of someone who truly understood the value of labor. He could now independently roast batches of tea that reached 8 or 9/10 of my standard. More importantly, he had earned the genuine respect of the other craftsmen. I thought our most turbulent days were behind us. But peace is sometimes just the quiet before a new storm. The first sign appeared on a Tuesday afternoon. A Western woman, around 40 years old, dressed in a designer business suit, walked into the tea house. She had short blonde hair, sharp blue eyes, and spoke Mandarin with astonishing fluency. She introduced herself as Evelyn Reed, an investment analyst from New York. I've heard so much about the miraculous revival of Zheng Jia, she said with a professional smile after Anqi served her a cup of tea. Your story is truly inspiring. I'm here today as an admirer, and also to gain a deeper understanding of this unique business model. She asked very intelligent questions, not just about tea, but about our company structure, brand strategy, and future development plans. Li Wei, who happened to be there, answered her skillfully and moderately. However, I sensed something was off. Evelyn Reed's gaze was not that of an admirer, but that of a hawk circling its prey. As the conversation was unfolding, Zheng Baolong came in from the workshop to get some tools. The moment he saw Evelyn Reed, he froze, his face instantly turning pale. The bamboo tray in his hands fell to the floor with a dry clatter. Evelyn Reed turned around. When she saw Baolong, the smile on her lips widened, a smile full of hidden meaning. Oh, Mr. Zheng, a pleasure to see you again. You look quite different from before. Baolong didn't answer. He bent down to pick up the tray, his hands visibly trembling. He mumbled an apology and hurried back into the workshop, almost fleeing. His strange behavior did not go unnoticed. Evelyn Reed shrugged elegantly. Perhaps I startled him. My apologies. In any case, thank you for the conversation today. I hope we'll have the chance to meet again soon. She left her business card and departed. The card simply bore her name and title, Evelyn Reed, Director of Asia Market Development. But it was the name of the company below that made Li Wei frown. Phoenix Capital. After the last guests had left, I went into the workshop. Baolong was standing motionless by the cold roasting wok, his eyes staring into the distance. Baolong, I called softly. Who was that woman? He flinched, turning to look at me, his eyes filled with panic and guilt. Master, I'm sorry. He took a deep breath, as if mustering all his courage. She's from Phoenix Capital. That was the investment fund I was planning to sell Zheng Jia's shares to. Before everything happened. A sense of foreboding rose within me. The Phoenix I thought had perished in the past, it turned out, had never left. It was merely waiting for its prey to grow fat again. That night, the air in Old Master Zheng's study was heavy as lead. Baolong, with the face of a defendant awaiting his verdict, recounted the entire story. It turned out that before my lawsuit, in his desperation over the failure of White Jade Lotus 2.0, Baolong had flown to Hong Kong to meet with investors. Phoenix Capital, a fund known for its strategy of acquiring traditional brands and then modernizing them to maximize profit, had shown the most interest. They promised a huge capital injection, Baolong recounted, his voice thick with regret. They painted a vision of turning Zheng Jia into a global brand, with thousands of bubble tea shops and bottled products in every supermarket. Evelyn Reed was the one who negotiated with me directly. What was their plan? Li Wei asked, his tone sharp. How much equity did they want? They wanted 60%, Baolong replied in a near whisper. They would have had absolute control. Their plan was to keep the names Zheng Jia and White Jade Lotus, but completely eliminate the artisanal production process. They would build a factory in Vietnam or Indonesia to cut labor costs, using chemical flavorings to create a uniform tea taste worldwide. They said that art and heritage were things that couldn't be scaled and were therefore worthless in modern business. This was the philosophy Baolong himself had once worshipped. Hearing it from his own mouth now, he looked as if he were swallowing poison, and Chi couldn't suppress a sigh of disappointment. They wanted to kill the soul of Zheng Jia. Yes, Baolong nodded, his eyes red. At the time, I was blind. I signed a preliminary memorandum of understanding with them. Legally, it wasn't highly binding, but it showed my intent. After the trial, when everything fell apart, they never contacted me again. I thought it was over. It's never over. Li Wei shook his head, his expression grim. For predators like Phoenix Capital, a memorandum is a foot in the door. They waited. They waited for us to revive the company, for the brand to regain its value, to become even more valuable than before. Now, we are a much juicier target. Just as Li Wei predicted, the next morning, an official letter from Phoenix Capital arrived. It was not a proposal for partnership. It was a notice of intent for a hostile takeover. They offered an unimaginably high price per share, 50% above the actual market value. They made this intention public to all of Zheng Jia's minority shareholders, distant relatives, old business partners of Old Master Zheng, people who held only a few percent of the shares and were only interested in dividends. This is a brutal financial assault, Li Wei explained in an emergency meeting. They don't need our approval. They will go directly to the minority shareholders to buy their shares. With such an attractive price, many will sell. Once they accumulate enough shares, they will have enough voting power to remove us from the board of directors. The ghost of the past had returned, not just to haunt Baolong, but to devour us all. This time, the enemy was not an arrogant, immature young master. The enemy was a faceless, ruthless financial giant, a machine that only understood money. Baolong sat silently throughout the meeting, his head bowed. The weight of his guilt seemed to be crushing him. He was the one who had led this wolf to our door. I will take responsibility, he suddenly spoke, raising his head, a newfound determination in his eyes. I will go see every single shareholder. I will kneel and beg them if I have to. I will not let them sell my father's legacy. I looked at him. This was no longer the Zheng Baolong of old. He wasn't running away. He was facing his own mistake. Begging won't work on people who only see profit, I said. We cannot fight them with money, because they have much more than we do. We must fight them with the weapon they do not possess. Everyone turned to look at me. That is sincerity, I continued. It is our story. It is the trust of those who drink our tea. This war will not be decided in the boardrooms of investors, but in the hearts of the public. Phoenix Capital's takeover announcement was like a bomb dropped in the middle of Shanghai. The business community was abuzz. The financial press immediately jumped in, analyzing the deal from every angle. Most experts believed Zheng Jia stood no chance. A battle between David and Goliath, but this time Goliath is armed with nuclear weapons, one famous analyst wrote. We gathered in the large meeting room, but the atmosphere this time was different. There was tension, anxiety, but no despair. Instead, there was a simmering will to fight. They've already started their move, Li Wei announced, pointing to the projection screen. They've hired a top PR firm and launched a media campaign to smear us. They're leaking information about internal conflicts, an outdated business model, and calling us conservatives hindering progress. They're trying to create a narrative that their takeover is a rescue mission. How shameless, Enchi said angrily. They are the destroyers, yet they portray themselves as saviors. That's how the financial world operates, Li Wei sighed. They attack the shareholders' confidence. Legally, we have very few options. We could use a poison pill tactic, issuing more shares to dilute the value, but that would also harm ourselves. In this fight, 9/10 of the odds are against us. Baolong, who had been silent, spoke up. Then what about the remaining 1/10? All eyes turned to him. The remaining 1/10 lies in things that cannot be valued with money, Li Wei replied, a spark in his eyes. Reputation, legacy, customer loyalty. But how do we turn those into an effective defensive weapon? And Qi gently tapped her fingers on the table. She had been thinking a lot over the past few days. We can't just defend passively, we must counterattack. Not on the financial front. We will open another front, the cultural front. She stood up and walked to the whiteboard. Phoenix Capital wants to turn us into a number on a balance sheet. We must remind the world that Zheng Jia is a living entity, with a soul, with a history. I propose we don't just hold a regular heritage tea gathering. We will organize a Zheng Jia Heritage Week. She began to sketch out her idea. For 1 week, we will completely open our tea workshop to the public. We will invite everyone, from the most cynical journalists to school children, to see with their own eyes how a tea leaf is made. We will host talks with our artisans, with historians. We won't talk about stocks or profits. We will only talk about people, about dedication, about an art passed down through generations. And the highlight of this week, she looked directly at Baolong, will be a public dialogue between Master Lin and Yu Baolong, 2 generations. One who protected the legacy and one who almost destroyed it, but is now striving to atone. We will tell our own story in the most truthful way. And Qi's idea silenced the room. It was bold and risky. Exposing our internal story to the public could be a double-edged sword. Li Wei was the first to speak, his expression thoughtful. From a marketing standpoint, this is a brilliant idea. It will create an incredibly powerful narrative. But it also puts Baolong in a very difficult position. All eyes fell on Baolong. He took a deep breath. I'll do it, he said, his voice firm. This was my mistake. I must be the one to face it. If my shame can help protect Zheng Jia, then it's a small price to pay. I looked at him, feeling a warmth in my heart. The boy who once only knew his own ego had truly grown up, ready to sacrifice for the collective good. I nodded. And she is right. Our greatest weapon is the truth. Phoenix Capital can buy shares, but they cannot buy people's hearts. We will not fight them. We will tell our story, and let the public themselves become the protectors of Zheng Jia. The stormy meeting ended with a unanimous decision. We would not play by their rules. We would create our own playing field. A field where the value of heritage and sincerity would outweigh all the money in the world. Chapter 24. The Weapon of Sincerity. The Zheng Jia Heritage Week was launched just a week later. The response from the media and the public far exceeded our wildest expectations. The invitation to open the tea workshop, a place once considered a secret sacred ground, piqued the curiosity of the entire city. From the very first day, long lines formed outside the Zheng Jia Tea House. We had to issue time tickets to ensure everyone had the best experience. Ah Ming and the other artisans, initially a bit nervous, soon became enthusiastic guides, meticulously explaining each step of the tea-making process to the visitors. The fragrant aroma of tea filled the air, something no advertising campaign could ever replicate. Phoenix Capital and their PR team were clearly caught off guard by this move. They tried to spread rumors that this was just a stunt to distract public opinion, but it had no effect. The public didn't care about accusations in the papers. They were witnessing the truth with their own eyes. They saw the old artisans with their calloused hands, the meticulousness in every movement, and they believed what they saw and heard. The culmination of the week was the dialogue between me and Baolong, held on Friday evening and broadcast live online. The hall was packed with people, including many journalists, shareholders, and loyal customers. We sat on the stage with just a simple tea set between us. There was no script. And she acted as the moderator, asking open-ended questions. She began by asking me about my early days at Zheng Jia, about my philosophy of tea-making. I recounted stories of old Master Zheng, of how we overcame difficulties together. Then, she turned to Baolong. Mr. Zheng, there was a time when you didn't believe in these values. What changed your mind? This was the moment everyone was waiting for. Baolong was silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on the teacup before him. The entire hall held its breath. Because I was wrong, he began, his voice slightly trembling but clear. I used to think that tradition was a burden, that heritage was outdated. I came back with a suitcase full of Western business theories and thought I could apply them mechanically. I looked down on my father, on Master Lin, and on my own family's history. He looked up, straight at the audience, at the camera lens. I almost killed Zheng Jia. Not because I was evil, but because I was foolish and arrogant. I cast out the company's soul and replaced it with soulless machines. I turned a treasure into a cheap commodity. And when I failed, instead of looking at myself, I tried to sell it off cheaply to people who only understand money. He turned to look at me. It was Master Lin, the man I had insulted most grievously, who gave me a second chance. He didn't teach me how to do business. He taught me how to be a better person, through the act of making tea. He taught me that patience, dedication, and respect are the most solid foundations, not profit. Today, Zheng Jia is facing a similar threat. From the very people I once sought out, he continued, his voice hardening. They also promise a global future, enormous profits. But I know that behind those promises lies an emptiness. They will do exactly what I did, but on a larger, more ruthless scale. They will rip the heart out of Zheng Jia. He stood up and bowed deeply to the entire hall. I stand here today, not as an heir, but as a son who has heired. I apologize to everyone. And I implore our shareholders, those who hold a piece of Zheng Jia's history, please do not sell our legacy. Money can be earned again, but a legacy, once lost, can never be recovered. There was no applause, only a deeply emotional silence. Baolong's sincere and courageous confession had touched everyone's heart. He made no excuses, cast no blame. He took full responsibility. That was our most powerful weapon. The truth, repentance, and a promise for the future. Phoenix Capital's multi-million-dollar PR campaign suddenly became meaningless in the face of one sincere apology. The war was not yet over, but we knew we had won the most important battle, the battle for people's hearts. The Heritage Week, and especially the dialogue between me and Baolong, created a powerful wave of public support for Zheng Jia. The hashtag #SaveZhengJia trended on social media. Many major newspapers, which had initially reported neutrally, now began publishing insightful editorials on the importance of preserving heritage brands against the tide of takeovers by financial corporations. However, the pressure from Phoenix Capital did not let up. They continued to contact and pressure the minority shareholders. Li Wei reported that a few, in need of money, had agreed to sell their shares. Although the number was small, it showed that the financial battle was still being fought silently and fiercely. We have won the moral victory, but we can still lose the mathematical one, Li Wei said in a meeting. They only need about 15% more of the shares to achieve their goal. We were in a difficult position. Just then, help arrived from an unexpected quarter. Old Mr. Wang, the devoted tea friend of the late old Master Zheng, who had witnessed our entire story from the beginning, called me. Master Lin, he said, his voice booming. This old man has sat still for too long. That performance by the Baolong boy the other night moved me deeply. He has truly grown up. The matter of Zheng Jia is no longer just your business. It is the business of all of us old folks who are trying to hold on to a piece of old Shanghai. 2 days later, old Mr. Wang hosted an intimate tea party at his private residence. The guests were not young entrepreneurs or journalists. They were the true old masters of Shanghai. There was the owner of a century-old silk brand, the heir to a traditional Chinese medicine pharmacy, and even a famous ceramic artist whose works were displayed in museums. They were all old friends of old Master Zheng, and they were all facing similar problems. Competition from cheap industrial products, the indifference of the younger generation, and the threat of takeovers from large corporations. I, Li Wei, and Baolong were invited as guests of honor. In the classic garden of the Wang residence, after enjoying tea and conversation, old Mr. Wang stood up. Gentlemen, he said, we have all seen what is happening to Zheng Jia. Today it is them, tomorrow it could be the Chen family's silk shop, the day after the Li family's pharmacy. The financial sharks will not stop. We, the small fish, if we continue to swim alone, will sooner or later be swallowed. He paused, looking around at everyone. It is time for us to unite. A single tree does not make a forest, but many trees together can form a mountain. And then, he made a bold proposal. I propose we form a heritage alliance. We will establish a common fund, not for business, but to protect each other. When one member is attacked, the fund will be used to buy back shares, to to provide legal support, to create a collective voice. The idea was met with enthusiastic approval. They were tired of fighting alone. That very afternoon, the Heritage Alliance was formed. And what was their first action? The Alliance's joint fund, with contributions from dozens of long-standing brands, stepped in and bought all the Zheng Jia shares that were being offered on the market, at a price even higher than Phoenix Capital had offered. It was a devastating blow to the American investment fund's plan. They could fight a single-family company, but they could not fight an entire alliance of Shanghai's most prestigious and influential brands. The battle was no longer a mere takeover bid, it had become a cultural confrontation. To continue pursuing the deal would make Phoenix Capital an enemy of an entire traditional business community, severely damaging their reputation in China. A week later, Evelyn Reed came to the Zheng Jia Tea House one last time. This time, she came alone, without lawyers or assistants. Her professional confidence was gone, replaced by a sense of weariness and a hint of admiration. "Master Lin," she said as I offered her a cup of tea, "we have lost. We underestimated what you call heritage. In our financial models, there is no variable for kinship or community solidarity." She drained her cup. "This is very good tea. Perhaps my boss was wrong. Some things, it seems, truly cannot be scaled." She stood up and extended her hand to me. "Congratulations. You have protected your garden." As she left, I looked out from the tea house. Baolong was in the workshop, patiently guiding a new apprentice, and Qi and Li Wei were discussing plans for the next tea gathering together. A deep and steadfast sense of peace enveloped me. The legacy of Zheng Jia was not just saved. It had found a new vitality, a more solid foundation. It no longer relied on one old master or a single contract. Now, it was protected by a new generation of mature successors, by a loyal team, and by an entire alliance of like-minded people. I poured myself another cup of tea, inhaling the fragrant steam. My promise to old Master Zheng had finally been, and completely, fulfilled.